name's Gary Graham from GroMór.ie, and you're very welcome to episode 6 in this GroMór series, where we're talking to some of the country's great brains and inspirational people who can tell us everything we need to know about gardening and garden design. And I'm delighted to say that this week on the Zoom call, I have the fantastic Kevin Dennis, who we've had at Bloom now, 5 times, I think, Kevin. And I think 4 of those were gold medals. So you're certainly one of the country's top garden designers. And I think you've often brought something very interesting and different than other garden designers, because you have focused on some of those difficult spaces around the cities and suburbia where it can be much more challenging to achieve a fantastic garden. Last year, I remember distinctly with your urban sanctuary garden, there were a lot of people who were looking at all the fantastic messaging we had around bees and pollination, and some beautiful gardens that conveyed that messages. But then they would come back to your space and they'd stand in front of your garden with the jaw down in awe, basically saying, yeah, that's the dream garden. That's the picture of what I want. That's the lifestyle I want. That's the garden I want to match my beautiful home. So that's an area that you've always focused on, Kevin. Isn't it something that I think it's your speciality. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I love urban gardens. And I love kind of making these spaces work. They're challenging, they're just spaces that are usually kind of small, medium, and people really value them more, So when you design them and build them correctly and get everything working, it's very rewarding for both the client and myself.
What about your process then? Where does it start?
Well, usually I get the backbone of the garden together first, which is the structure, and I do use this. I map the sun. You have to follow the sun. Find out how the sun will travel through the space. And when you've done that, then you know how the planting is going to work, because you will have shaded areas in every garden, no matter what size it is. You will have sunny spots too. So when you've laid out the structure to where you're going to spend your social times, your patios, whatever, or you're going to have your lawns or your shaded areas, then that's the map, the road map for all the planting, sun and shade.
What's in trend now? What are people looking for? What's the must-have elements that you want to have in an absolutely fantastic garden?
Material choices have become higher. People do want bigger plants, want more structure. They are looking online, being inspired by the international design around the world, from California to Australia, bringing it all back here. So we've got to really up our game. So the material choice is very related to our interior home lifestyles.
Talk to me about plants, because we're talking about the hard landscape and the hard elements, obviously hugely important, but the difference between interiors and exteriors are the plants that give it that softness, give it that link to nature. That's the difference between the garden and the inside, as far as I'm concerned, and you get that constant change. If somebody wants to create a gold medal type standard garden, they've got to be good on plants as well. Give us your tips, particularly on, say, those really strong perennial plants that you use for colour. Give us some suggestions. What might you pick up in the local garden centre that you would say is a must-have for your garden?
Okay, a couple of reliables. We're talking about plants here that or perennials, means they come back every year, and they come back without a doubt, no problem, which is super. And they flower for a long period too, so you can't go wrong with that. One really good plant that actually featured in Bloom Garden in 2018 was Salvia nemorosa.
Yeah.
Purple flower, reliable for 2 or 3 months, comes back every year. Another great one would be agapanthus. Can't go wrong with agapanthus. Flowers in July, great in coastal locations, really hardy plant. Comes usually in blue and white, but in the garden design element, they can be repeated through the garden, and they're very, very reliable. Another one would be Rudbeckia, even though it's a yellow plant, and most people kind of seem to go for the blues and purples, but you can't help loving this plant, because when it flowers in late summer, like, it just smiles at you. It's the most honest, lovely, warm tone. It comes out in August to September, but that plant will look lovely with tall grasses. That's a good design tip. That's lots of tall grasses. Rudbeckia's dancing through them. That would be a warm way to end the year.
And I know you like things like Nepeta, Salvia. I see those in your gardens regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. Nepeta is great, and Walker's Law is a great variety. That's a long flowering plant. It's flowering now. It's flowering out in my garden, and then go all the way through the summer. It sprawls out over the border. It's absolutely beautiful.
And the bees love it.
Bees love it. It's great. It's like lavender, they all salvias, they all attract bees.
Kevin, what if you don't have sun? As you know, and you know this from working in the cities and the suburbs, so many gardens are overshadowed. There's a lot of shade, and people say, "Oh, I've got shade. I can't have a garden." What's your approach to that kind of space?
Well, that's a good question, Gary, because shade is a massive problem. And I think usually what people do in the shade is they run out and they go, okay, nothing will grow here, right? Let's just pave that immediately. And that's the worst thing you can do, because when you look down at a kind of paved area in the shade, it becomes unkept, gets dark, and it's like it's an eyesore. So what I usually do in the shade is I don't put much hard landscaping. I pull back on that and I plant it. Because some plants just love shade. And there's nothing as nice as plants bring it to life. They will just light up the shade. Like reliable evergreen plants like Cressata the Kings at Fern, for instance. Nice big 70 by 70 centimeters, full evergreen all year long. Use them in mass, create a lovely carpet texture. Hellebores, super. Evergreen plant again, flowers in January to February. Where would you get it? 3 months in the winter, giving you color. I love the shade. And then there's also other plants like sedges, carex, grasses that give you a grass effect, but they like damp and they like dark. But this is where you can make a slightly exotic theme in the shade. So I think shade is very exciting, and I think the people that maybe think for the garden, because they have a lot of shade, the use is not good. You can really, really get excited about that type of planting for sure.
And I know it because I've seen some of your real world gardens as well. You're very good then at lighting those spaces, and they become almost like a theatre from the windows of the house at night time.
Absolutely. Lighting is absolutely crucial, because yourself, from the winter on, once it hits 5 o'clock, we're in the dark. Now, what have you got to light when your garden's lovely? You've got the trees, you've plants, you've got the paving, you've all that subtle lighting everywhere. It takes your eye around the space. Beautiful.
Brilliant. It's been fantastic talking to you, Kevin. And any final thoughts you want to leave us with? Any words of wisdom for someone who's out there wondering where to get started and what to do in their garden?
Okay, you want to get started, you got to get a plan together. You can call me to begin with. I'll get a good plan, no problem. But you got to think about how you're going to use the space. Map out the sun. Where is the best place to spend it? Is your shed getting a great tan over there in the corner when you should be moved into the shade, for instance? But get your plan together. But do your research. Everybody should be looking online now, Pinterest, picking out images. It might be just one image of one plant, timber fence, a tile. All these images add up to a mood board that actually creates a vision that I could read quite clearly if I've seen. But you're putting your own stamp on the garden you're going to have. So your own personal research and digesting stuff, and you will end up with kind of creating an image in your own head of what you're going to achieve, what you hope to achieve.
Yeah. So that way, then you get a garden that reflects your own personality and what you and your family need. Kevin, I think that was fantastic words of wisdom from you. We look forward to seeing you at Bloom next year. Fingers crossed. All going well. Stay safe. Take care.